one of the things, as usual, the president is doing is setting an agenda. Now, all of us are talking about the fact that he's in Nanyuki. All of us are talking about the fact that he called his own government there. All of us are talking about whether he or not he's trying to control all the arms of government. I know we had a conversation late last year about him talking about the judiciary. Now he's called the legislature. He's called the county governments. They've all gone to sit with him. I think from the positive side, what he's trying to do is make sure everybody knows what his plan is. He wants to make sure Parliament knows what his plan is. He wants to make sure the governors know what his plan is. And that was one of the things that you could see a dysfunction in the previous government. There was a disconnect between what the county government was running after, what Parliament was running after, and what the executive was doing. And maybe what he's trying to do is solve that problem by making sure everybody is on the same page. The challenge about that is that, of course, there are some people who are seated somewhere just waiting for him to do that so that they can start poking holes in his plan. In an ideal situation, everybody having a plan would be working according to that plan. But you can be sure in the course of the next couple of days, we are going to be listening to the opposition saying, oh no, why is he trying to control Parliament? Why isn't he? Does he understand about the independence of institutions? So, and that's what politics is all about. But looking with a sharp focus on what he has actually tried to achieve. First, there is no excuse by anybody in his government, whether you're a parastatal head, whether you're a PS or a CS, that you do not know what Ruto wants to do as president. You cannot give that argument. You spent 4 days listening, and I hear those meetings are starting early, my friend. They are starting on time. They are running according to a program. He actually has a plan. He kept saying during the campaigns, he has a plan. We didn't believe him, and some of us didn't believe him. But you can see he's implementing something that he has had in his mind, and he's trying to pull everybody on board. So this is a good thing. This is one of the things that was lacking in the past. Something else I also noticed that he has done, and I was telling some friends of mine, some leaders of Parliament who had actually come to Ruare over the holiday period, and we were just talking about how much investment the president and his party have put into the politics of the country. They are making sure people are up to date with what is happening. And sometimes I feel as if the president is going to start having a challenge balancing politics and policy, because it's always easier to do one thing, not both. Policy requires you to be non-emotional, to think with your mind. Policy requires you to think with your mind. Politics requires you to think with your heart. When you try to do both at the same time, you struggle. He's doing both at the same time. He's playing very good politics. His political game is in good form. And he's also trying to run policy at the same pace. The problem is, I am not sure he's going to be able to balance it. But again, it's very, very early in the year. The year has just begun. This is actually his first calendar year as president. His government is in place. His 100 days are over. So now we can start really criticizing him and looking at his policies. So let's see what happens after they come out of Nanyuki and they get into office, whether they'll be able to actually implement what they have agreed. As I said, some of the ideas that I had in Nanyuki are interesting. The idea of a paperless bureaucracy is something I would want to see. Part of it is because you keep hearing a lot of people in government want to have a letter in a file, so that if things go wrong, he's able to say, I was told by my boss, and I even have a letter to show what my boss said. Emails can get rubbed out, SMSs can get rubbed out. So it is going to be interesting to see whether the resistance, the normal bureaucratic resistance to change is going to allow him to implement some of the really good ideas that he has. But that is what it is. So kudos for starting the year right, getting everybody on the same page, having the whole government thinking in one line and listening. Of course, one of the things that came out of Nanyuki was my good friend Rigathi Gachagua climbing the mountain and praying for us, not once, not twice, actually 3 times. He went up the mountain, and he was going up at 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning, and man, my dad and I were watching one of those news items, and my dad said, yeah, he looks like a Mau Mau. So he's really getting this thing of kijana ya Mau Mau right. He's initially, when he started doing the things he was doing, like many people, I thought he was taking it a bit too far, that he was overdoing it. He was creating a niche that would make him look like a political buffoon. But gradually, you're starting to see this looks like a guy who has a plan. He literally cut a niche for himself. We talked about Nanyuki, and then we talked about Rigathi. You know, we keep talking about him. The other day from Nyeri, he made a comment about Nairobi and matatus and whether they should come in, and we forgot, and it was like 3 weeks ago. We are still talking about it. Somehow, either deliberately or by default, and in politics it's very hard for things to be done by default, he's gradually cutting a niche for himself as somebody who is his own person. But then he's also being very strategic. You get the vibe he has decided he's not going to go into a fight with his boss. So he's always very humble and very, he's not trying to challenge his boss. He's not trying to challenge his boss's space. And the boss is also showing him. So in Nanyuki, there was an interesting moment where Ruto seemed like he was defending Rigathi in regards to the work he's been given and the mandate they have, where he said, the deputy president and myself were mandated by the people. Then everybody else here has been given the mandate through us. That was like a way of trying to say, me and Rigathi are on this side and everybody else was on that side. There was a feeling initially that there was some tension, but they're managing it. If there's any tension, they're managing it well. But you can tell Rigathi is doing his work, but he's cutting his niche out for himself. And